Karma?
We are good to go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Ivan Rodrigues. Thank you for joining us today. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the Economic Times Digital Roundtable on the theme Transforming Organizational Security. This session is powered by Microsoft. Digital transformation is driving organizations to adopt unique cloud models. At the same time, they often struggle to meet their security needs, given that there is a surge in cyber threats. The market today has a number of players addressing different security needs and working independently, making it difficult to protect oneself against today's sophisticated and evolving attacks. While many businesses have invested in protecting their on-premises solutions, cloud still remains vulnerable. As a result, there exists large gaps in visibility and security coverage across their environment, putting them at risk. While implementing successful security transformation, two elements that need to be addressed immediately are risk management and security governance. For organizations to grow securely, they need to find a right balance in assessing the objectives for revenue, business development, and risk. In today's session, themed Transforming Organizational Security, we will touch upon some important points, such as integrating security as part of the digital transformation journey, building a sustainable security, integrating cybersecurity with business strategy to create value, and revisiting policies for data protection. We have a prestigious panel to take you through today's session, and so without further ado, it is an honor and privilege for me to welcome the esteemed members of this power-packed panel. Vipin Kumar, Chief Information Officer, Uflex Limited. Ashwin Prajapati, Group Chief Information Officer, Symphony Limited. Naseem Haldar, Chief Information Security Officer, ACO General Insurance. Nagarajan Ravindran, Chief Information Officer, Sakti Group. Ganesh Verma, Chief Technology Officer, CIO Group of Companies. Nipul Rajaguru, Head Information Technology and SAP Tirth Agro Technology. And Terence Gomes, Country Head Security, Microsoft India. This session will be moderated by Lalit Kalra, Partner Cybersecurity and Privacy, Ernst & Young, India. I now invite Lalit to take it from here. Over to you, Lalit.
Thank you, Ivan. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining in today's session. The topic that we have today, essentially around transforming organizational security, is an interesting one, specifically because till 3 years or 2.5 years back, every organization was taking a different route to transforming its organization on security. But COVID has pushed it to an entirely different level. The priorities have changed from an organization perspective. And that's where I would want to start. And these have paved the way for the next innovations and the setups that organizations would have to go through. So I'll start with Terence first, you, and then I'll move to the other panelists. What are the trends that you're seeing, Terence, in terms of how organizations are seeing the security landscape moving, and what are the challenges or the changes that you've seen in the deployments?
Sure, Lalit. I think there are four themes that commonly emerge. And firstly, good afternoon, good evening to all my fellow panelists and Lalit. So nice to be here on this afternoon. So I'll jump back to the answer. There are four themes that we see. First theme is the rapid expansion that has happened in the digital workplace. right? And that has led to an expanded attack surface because there is so much of asset and workload that is now moving in and out of the organization, and there are different forms, right? It's not just remote work, it's applications, it's external contractors, it is new services. So that whole digital expansion that has happened has also led to a big attack surface that we need to manage. I think that is one challenge. The second theme that we commonly constantly see customers share with us is the sophistication of attacks. And attacks are getting more and more difficult to detect. Attackers are getting smarter and they're using very innovative ways to avoid being detected. And variety of attacks, not just malware. Identity continues to be the number one focus area, followed by phishing and business email compromise, or we call it BEC, and then ransomware. And now recently we've heard even smart devices and vulnerabilities in those devices are being used to compromise and get inside the organization. So while the digital estate has grown, the attack surface has significantly exploded, and the attacks are getting further more difficult to be detected, right? The third theme that we are seeing, and this is also in the drawback, or in I would say the background of the India data protection bill that has been in discussion quite some time, and with so-called remote work, hybrid work, I think data security and data privacy and data compliance is becoming also a top of mind concern for a lot of our customers and organizations. And I'm assuming even the panelists would kind of agree with me there, because data right now is residing in remote devices, remote applications, even with external suppliers. So how to keep that secure and prevent unauthorized use and access to that is top of mind. And then when you try to manage all these programs and you have a cybersecurity program at the CIO office, at the security office, at the risk office, now you realize that it's not just an antivirus or a firewall or a VPN gamut. You're dealing with 20, 30, 40, 50 different controls and vendors and the complexities. And so security is become complex. I call this where the cure becomes the curse. So it's like now you see the problem is not just about, okay, I have a problem, let me go buy a product and fix it. The problems are huge. The attackers are getting smarter. The estate has grown wider, and data, which is the core asset we always try to protect, is no longer in our control. So how do you deal with that? So those are the things that people are discussing, in various forums that I've been.
Thank you, Terence. Now, and one more point which I would want to add here. So we've seen earlier people were talking about segregation between a CISO and a CIO and maintaining, saying that there's a conflict in terms of the role. But now there is a significant shift in where organizations are looking at how do these two entities collaborate. The entire digital transformation is being run from the CIO's office, and you cannot leave a CISO behind. So that's where a lot of collaboration is coming, and that's where we are seeing a lot of CIOs joining hands with the CISOs. Is the business angle which is still missing. But what I would want to understand, Vipin, if I were to start with you, how the traditional security deployments, we've looked at the office attack surface, sophistication, but what, in your opinion, how has the traditional security deployments evolved, and what can IT or the security teams do to get ahead of the curve? Vipin, you're on mute.
Yeah, hello everybody. So if you actually traditionally look the IT needs of an organization, you will find that IT was more aligned to just protecting the perimeter security. When I say perimeter security or the endpoint security, and from the business side, they always thought that this information security is primarily the role only of IT, and as end users, they have no role to play. And IT was also very happy, they just had a pair of firewalls and and security antiviruses, and people said, yes, we have something with us and we are fully secured. Now this perception, if you go and try to break off your own, possibly it takes a lot of effort, because security is like insurance. You really don't get the knack out of it till the time the attack occurs. because in other business applications, it's easy to go and convince the management that you do this and this is the benefit of doing it. But in security, if you go and tell the management do this, they say, "Yeah, till date it has not happened. Why it will happen tomorrow?" So the good part about COVID, though COVID had many bad things, all bad things in fact, but a few good points about COVID was it made even the most dormant opinions change their view on security. So because overnight you had your complete workforce going out, people using mobiles, workflow applications, and with the growth in businesses, people thought of why not to integrate the external stakeholders like vendors and all. So this forced the evolution of security models, because security no longer remained on the perimeter or on the endpoint. It was a 360 curve, because data of all sorts, critical data, business data, was all flowing here and there. And this has necessitated, in fact, accelerated the adoption of security, and also made the industry more wise in terms of how to leverage the various technologies available. Today, you see the adoption of cloud. Possibly 5 years before, it was not that much, but today cloud seems to be now on the priority list of almost all the organizations. So security for hybrid, security for cloud, security for your mobile devices, security for data being shared between all the external stakeholders. So this has necessitated a complete 360-degree evolution of security. And my view is this is as much a challenge for the organizations as it is for the vendor community to give those holistic solutions. Because with so much need of security at different levels, it may not be possible for an organization to today talk about point solutions addressing point problems. Then you have a plethora of a basket, where you have so many things being coming at, and who does the interrelation of that? How does a CIO know how my data flow is happening, where the breach is happening? So I think this evolution is for the good, both from the organizational perspective and also from the vendor perspective.
Thank you, Vipin. That's an interesting perspective, looking at the overall ecosystem, and there are multiple challenges that organizations would face in the overall transition or the transformation activities that would happen. So let me ask Naseem, from a CISO perspective, what do you think currently are the challenges that the organizations are facing, and how can they mitigate or overcome those?
Okay, first of all, thank you for giving us opportunity to talk here. Challenges are, a lot of challenges. So as on date, I would not say that security is something enabling function, right? I think Vipin has already covered a lot of points over there, and all are valid points, I would say. Additionally, I would say, security become a feature of your product or become a feature of your service. Whatever service you are selling, whatever product you are selling, you should have security. If I talk about insurance or BFSI sector, it's become an integral part of the product. If your product is not secure, your business is not secure, you will not able to grow, you will not able to scale. So that is the requirement of security has been changed. In terms of problem, the first or foremost problem what I have seen in last couple of years, people are struggling to select the perimeters, right? There are certain solutions, certain architecture is available in the market, like zero trust architecture people can implement, but it's not like, it will fully give a perimeters, right? In this perimeter, there are, a lot of loops are there. You have to play with those digital controls. You have to come out from traditional security approach. You have to consider how the business you are going to marry with business, how you're going to help the business to grow. So that business should also understand the requirement of security to scale up. I would say that is the biggest problem as on date, considering this perimeter, this work from home scenario, remote work scenario, especially people who are into hybrid cloud model, or I would say who moved or transferred themselves from a on-prem setup to cloud in last 1 and 2 years. So if I consider a company like we are a pure cloud-born company. Our infrastructure, our setup is already in that mode of setup. We had that, hey, we are always okay. I would say initial days, it was one of the employee benefit to us that any employee can do 1 month continue work from home. And that's the, I would say that's employee benefit become a huge game changer for us, so that we can enable our work from home within few seconds. So that's the, that's, I would say, that's the transform from a technology standpoint, managing your things from a perimeter to perimeterless.
Thank you, Naseem. You brought an interesting concept of zero trust, and I will touch on that a little later. So coming to you, Ganesh, specifically, and on the pieces and the what Naseem talked about, the organization is already on cloud. While what this has been a case for the organizations which have started data migrations early to cloud, or a lot of startups which are, I would say, born on cloud. The strategy has always been on cloud, while for the traditional organizations, it has always been an on-premise and now moving to cloud. And that's where the as and when the organizations are moving, I wouldn't say the art of moving or the art of managing the on-premise environment has been maintained and has gained expertise, but the art of managing the cloud is what organizations are struggling with. The security landscape differs from a on-premise to a cloud and in a hybrid environment. What are your thoughts on what can organizations do to get ahead of the current cloud security threat and protect their organizations against the breaches?
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. So you picked a particular word, traditional way of like the on-premise kind of networking, or on-premise server storage, hosting, and all those things. So yes, in current scenario, definitely we should be calling those practices as traditional, because nowadays pretty much each and every organization, whether it's a big enterprise or that's a startup, uh, it eventually has to go to cloud. On premise, yes, there are still some part of it that is going on premise, but the overall evolution of cloud infrastructure, and at the same time this COVID scenario, how that has impacted the work model or working style of any organization, that has led to that point wherein everyone in the industry has to go for cloud. I mean, we can't excuse that. Now, when we are on cloud, definitely there are different set of challenges, different set of risk involved. As Terence mentioned, that the cure has become kind of a danger or a disease, and now we have to address that, how exactly to ensure that this cure is not further impacting the data or the integrity of the organization. And at the same time, now each and everything basically asks for real-time data or real-time transaction. I mean, be it anything. I mean, everybody asks for the thing to happen on real time. And if anything has to happen on real time, it has to be available. That backend data or backend entities or objects related to that has to be there real time, which again led to the cloud infrastructure. But at the same time, how exactly we can ensure that we are using cloud, and at the same time we can avoid the risk associated with this. That is something which each and every organization has been trying different ways. Apart from, there are some standard protocols, standard procedures which definitely are followed, but at the same time, I mean, at this point of time, I would say from mid-level organization to an enterprise level organization, they are all trying to figure out different innovative ways in which they can ensure that data protection and security is intact.
Thank you, Ganesh. And I'm sorry, are you?
Yeah. So apart from till now, since we talked about the traditional part, so till now, cybersecurity was something which was not an essential part of of an organization. So cybersecurity was, of course, that was uh, taken up as a premium service or as a luxury for an organization. But nowadays, definitely that has to be part of any organization, that has to be there in any organization. So that is one thing. Now, apart from having a cyber security team available inside the organization, at the same time, we also need to understand that how well equipped that cyber security team or that cyber security professional is in the organization. Because as per I was reading somewhere, as per the data, like 4.40 million dollar loss normally happens on an average every month because of misconfiguration or faulty settings on AWS, Azure, or any cloud platform. So that's a kind of numbers that come up, uh, and that is just happening because cybersecurity team is there, but they are not well equipped or knowledgeable enough to ensure that the platform sanctity of the platform is there. Uh, and as I mentioned, that different organizations are trying to build in their own innovative ways to fight with this. So just one suggestion input from my side. So we have taken up data science and AI to that level, wherein that can become a savior for us. So that is a new thing which we are trying to build in our organization on how exactly data science model can help us predict the breaches, can help us predict the incidents, and we can act on those incidents in a proactive manner. So that's I mean, apart from the standard things, this is one new thing which I have been trying to establish in the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh. That's an interesting concept on how do we predict incidents and breaches, given that a lot of organizations are struggling with the existing on if there is a incident happens, how would I recover? Now that takes me to my next questions. You've talked about traditional versus the latest approach. So, Mr. Ravindran, what do you think are the controls that organization or the practical actions that entities can look at to maintain transparency in the cloud, as well as having a cloud strategy or implementing that in their organizations?
Thanks, Lalit, and good evening, fellow panelists. Like no, I think already the cloud stage is already set. Actually, see, cloud is becoming an important platform now. There is no doubt. And coming to that minus point, of course, it is vulnerable because we were very used to on-prem environment, and now I think more or less we are moving out of on-prem or either hybrid or totally cloud. There is no doubt on that. But coming to the positive point, see, cloud also enable a lot of security features embedded inside it. So that's a very, very positive point we have to take. We already started experiencing in it. And I'll put one example, like you set the components, etc. A firewall is there. Cloud, it gives a standard firewall. But it need not know we have to take that firewall alone. Like in our experience, suppose for example, our environment is there and so many outsiders are getting connected, so many of my branches are getting connected. We can go and ask for you. And what are the things you need, whether it is a firewall or endpoint security, anything you need, that is made available, that too in the OpEx model. So that point, I think we have to really take it. And whatever devices you need that can be installed to cover the security part. And what are the applications you want to put in over there? See that that are built in with multi-layered security thing and then put in over there. That is very, very important while we adopt the cloud part of this thing. And I suggest multiple VAPTs to be done. As far as cloud is concerned, even normally in our traditional environment, we used to do once in a year, but now in cloud, we used to do, I think, quarterly once. That's very, very, very important actually. And there are a lot of features available in the cloud environment. For example, I'll tell you, monitoring. Typical dashboards are there, and some of you touched upon a predictive way of analyzing the attacks. Even some cloud vendors, they have AI-enabled features like that, based on your past transactions, hits, and your server behavior, transaction behavior, etc. It's all giving the thing actually. And don't try to go with shared component as far as security is concerned. It is my suggestion, my experience. Try to take a dedicated one. What are the components you need? Don't bother about the cost. Don't compromise on the cost, because security is very, very important. That to know over cloud. See, I used to always face a lot of tough time with my management, convincing to put things over cloud. They always put how secure it is. Since we belong to a non-banking finance company category, how secure are the customer data? But I think we are in a position to prove these are the features available, these are the efforts taken by us, so that the information security is achieved. And put a dedicated resource within your system admin team or something, to monitor the movements, dashboard, etc. very often. It is not like once in a while job, or you get alerts to do something at all. So overall, to answer the point is cloud is vulnerable, but you take care of it in all possible ways. Cloud is a heaven for, I think, do things in a secure manner. Thanks,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ravindran. You talked about multi-layered security, multiple VAPTs, and essentially in my point of view, the identifying the critical assets, identifying which ones am I moving to the cloud first, and accordingly assessing based on the risk assessment or doing a risk identification to identify the controls. Now that takes me to my next question, and Ashwin, if you could take that up. What, in your opinion, what are the common risk identifications techniques that our organizations are using? And if some of those are ignored, they can give rise to multiple or major security threats. How do you think organizations are going about mitigating those mistakes as well?
Yeah, thanks, Lalit, and good evening, all panel members. So, Terence started talking about the role of CIO and CISO. So, like in Symphony, I am playing both the roles. So, I am a CIO and CISO, and making the right balance between all the digital transformation initiative with embedded with the security. And uh, see, it's very important. We as a company, we are certified with ISO 27001 ISMS, Information Security Management System, where I was actively involved as a CISO. So what we do, we make it very simple that we as a company do the risk assessment, and as a part of even ISO 27001 also, you have to have your IT security policy, and followed by that you need to have a risk management program. So what we do is that every quarter we do the risk assessment for selected functions. We calculate scientifically, we calculate the RIN, And also we talk to with the leadership team. We have come up with a one acceptable RIN value, that if this is the value, it is acceptable, that is acceptable risk, and more than that we will treat it. So over the period of time, this is the second year we completed post implementation of ISO 27001. We identify the risk, and then this risk is reviewed with the MRM, management review meeting, and then there is a risk mitigation plan. First and foremost, it is very important that the management take it very seriously. The good part is that from the implementation of ISO 27000, one good advantage is that from our leadership team to the bottom level, they know that the importance of IT security. We do the risk management, then we identify the some of the critical risk, and then there is a risk mitigation program, and then we constantly we reviewed the risk after even implementing risk mitigation plan. We also check at ground level that are we getting what we had implemented or not. Sim like a couple of examples I could give is like DLP, data loss prevention, mobile device management. These are the two key risks we identified. And then what we also identified, that even mailing, so email security, this is also one of the risk we identified, and we did implementation of that. So in nutshell, what we do is that constant review of risk mitigation plan and applying necessary controls, not only the compliance perspective but the actual implementation perspective. That is very important. So we completed 2 surveillance audit, and so it is very important that regular management review meeting identify the risk. And even when we as a company, we are the we don't hold any application in house. So let it be HANA or let it be non SAP application, our first choice is always cloud. And apart from cloud, we also use a couple of SaaS or PaaS application. So there also we do constantly VPT and ensure that even when we are going for any application, we make sure that that security features of those are necessarily taken care by it. So that is how our policy is. So we ensure that any, whether it's a new application or it's a current ongoing application, it's a co-located location or it's a SaaS, we always check the risk, and risk mitigation plan we always put on that, and we regularly review the risk. That's what we do it.
Thank you very much, Ashwin. So you've talked about the basic hygiene and the fundamentals that an organization should look at. And before I come to you, Nipul, I would go to Terence once, more from looking at a cloud perspective. Now, Terence, as we've heard, it gives amazing opportunities and the leading edge technologies, and helps organization to integrate a security by design approach. But to be actually successful, we've heard about multiple risk assessment, we've heard about multi-layered security, we've talked about prediction of incidents. There is a transformation required in both people and process. In your opinion, what should organizations do to take their cloud strategy forward?
Yeah, and I'll share some examples as well, right? So when we are looking at cloud, as a strategy, and as Ravindran sir mentioned, right, there is a lot of inherent security controls already enabled in the cloud. But at the same time, if you don't plan it for it well, cloud can actually become a disaster also if you don't manage it well. And if you look at the breaches and the incident response reports, the number one cause for most cloud breaches is user misconfiguration or errors. It's not actually an attacker who's outsmarted the security professionals. So it's how you do it. So the advice would be to kind of put the guardrails in place as you plan for this, right? And that is where the whole dialogue around security by design, security by default, and working proactively to identify what is it that the service provider will do and what is it that I need to do as a subscriber. That shared responsibility model, needs also to be very discreet, because sometimes, we would assume that it is taken care of. Like, I'll give examples. There have been situations where certain customers assume that DDoS services or vulnerability management and patch management services should be taken care by the cloud provider. It is in case of SaaS services, but when you actually go and opt in for VMs and infrastructure services, that onus actually shifts back to the subscriber. So dependent on these are basics again, but we've had situations more across the spectrum. But I think to kind of summarize my response, it is back to basics, but putting in guardrails proactively and making sure that security is embedded by design and by default, so that the configuration itself is secure and it stays secure.
Okay, thank you, Terence. So you brought the another interesting concept of security by design and by default. And before I take that concept forward, so Nipul, in your view, there are multiple alignments that we are talking about. We are talking about defining a RACI with a particular service provider. We are defining, convincing the management, and there are multiple other alignment aspects that an CISO or a CIO needs to look at. And in your opinion, what are the key governance and organization alignment issues that limit the ability of a CIO or a CISO to implement a successful cybersecurity program, whether it is cloud, whether it is on-premise? What do you think are the key aspects?
Yeah, good evening all. See, now it is become somewhat cliche to say that cybersecurity is no longer exclusive IT job. But the reality is that all CXO level executives least understood. According to a recent estimate by 2022, only 5% of CISOs will report security metrics that are useful for senior executives. And on the other hand, the majority of CISO report that their reports, their corporate boards are not actively involved in security operation. To combat that silo effect, current CISO should be using the board meetings as an opportunity to build bridges between their own work and the rest of the board. As an example, if legal executive placed the blame for the data breach on the one of the IT employee for failing to patch a server, the actual situation illustrates the potential nightmare of internal company reporting structure. Despite IT being aware of the vulnerability, it was never patched, and the breach was not even identified for 2 months. Much of the blame can actually be placed on the fact then CISO did not report to the CIO, but to the chief legal officer. So, such a silos between IT and security significantly impact the extent of the breach and prevent efforts to resolve the situation from worsening. Organization can fix its organization structure by placing the new CISO directly under the CEO. You can find that only 5% of the global top 100 companies list CISO on their executive leadership page. While each CISO faces unique challenges, the seeming need to fight for organization attention and funding detracts from its ability to optimize network and enterprise systems for security and risk mitigation. Furthermore, even without any major organization stumbling blocks, many CISOs simply find it challenging to fully staff their departments. A prolonged search for competent employees could draw resources away from important day-to-day tasks or shoring up company cyber defenses and strengthening its network security process, in addition to distracting the CISO from staying on top of new risks facing the organization. And another issue is human error. Since CISOs are in charge for all aspects of IT risk management, they will likely be held responsible despite of reckless action on behalf of an employee. This outsized discrepancies between the lack of control yet extreme risk causes possibility of employee error to never be far from CISO's list of top worries. For example, employees could fall for a phishing scam and introduce a malware into the company's network. Furthermore, the potential for employees to access company sensitive information on mobile device while connected to the public network Dissatisfied employees may also choose to leak confidential information, making the complete security of company information virtually it is impossible. The biggest challenge nowadays for any CISO is managing WhatsApp, mainly banning the use of WhatsApp on company-owned mobile device or even under BYOD device. Employees feeling more at ease with the system are less likely to impose a professional degree of self-censorship. There is also mounting evidence that work-based WhatsApp group have a dark side. Functioning often a virtual water cooler, some corporate WhatsApp groups increasingly feature cyberbullying, oversharing, and undermining for management. While some of these are clearly issues related to more to HR, should the conversation for one reason or another become public? Additionally, if an employee's or customer's data breached via the platform, GDPR and the local MDB regulations come to full force. I think CISOs should be reviewing their organization's information security policies on a regular basis and proactively introduce new training materials to educate employees on the risk of cybersecurity.
So Nipul, you hit the nail on the in the coffin to say the basic human element, or the what we used to call it the weakest link in the entire security chain, the entire human element, and that's where a biggest challenges that the CISOs and the CIOs are facing. And I would want to hear your points, Mr. Ravindran, on the culture within the organizations. We've seen it is becoming a difficult, now it is becoming easier, but it has been traditionally a difficult task for a CIO or CISO to convince its management that I need to do this. And from an employee perspective also, setting up a culture of security by design within the organization is becoming important. So what do you think can organizations do to have a positive impact or positive culture of security within the organization?
There is a well-known saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Building a healthy security culture is not a one-time project or even for 1 year focus. I would say there can be a 3-4 action items which can be taken to build or and promote a positive security culture. One, ensure executive priority and support. Regardless of industry, staff will generally do what their leadership does and not just what they tell others to do. Sure, policies and procedures are important, but management must lead by example and staff are certainly watching. This means that management should be taking security awareness training, followed best practice with securing data, and openly encouraging others to do the same. Second, reward and recognition those people that do the right things for the security. We should look for the opportunity to celebrate success. When someone goes through the mandatory security awareness program and complete it successfully, give them a high five or something more substantial. Even a simple cash reward of 100 rupees is a huge motivator for people and will cause them to remember the security lesson that is provided to the company. Then the third, conduct a realistic risk assessment to measure your security culture. See, until if you can't measure it, you cannot improve it. So one challenge is knowing what items to measure and what items are symptomatic of deeper problems. There are 3-4 areas that you should consider measuring related to your security culture, like how many security incidents related to employee occurred in past year and in what area they did occur. Understand where the vulnerabilities are. What percentage of employees have taken security awareness training? What security awareness training topics were covered? What feedback do end user have regardless cybersecurity? On a range of topics, including security awareness and value and incorporate employees' feedback as a way to improve your security culture. The fourth and last is build a security community that can really help organization to have a good security culture, I would say. A security community is achieved by understanding the different security interest levels within the organization. Can be advocates, security aware, or sponsors. So security advocates are those people with a down-home passion for making things secure. These are the leaders with your community. The security aware are not passionate but realize that they need to contribute making security better. The sponsors are those from the management who help to shape the security direction. Gather all those folks together into a special interest group focused on security. Security community can manifest as a one-on-one mentoring and weekly or monthly meetings to discuss the largest security issues. It can even become a yearly conference where the best and brightest from the organization have a chance to share their knowledge and skill on a big stage. Finally, a well thought out plan on improving security culture will reap organizational rewards, lower risk while improving business productivity, and result in positive change in employee behavior with higher participation and positive engagement.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Nipul. Mr. Ravindran, coming back to you specifically on the security culture you've talked about. Nipul has talked about rewards, recognitions. Uh, the, how do we get employees to think that their purpose is aligned with security? I think that's one of the key aspects that organization should be looking at. How do you make employees own up security?
Uh, I think thanks, Nipul. I think you put a lot of relevant points in the culture aspect. Like I think Ashwin also did mention about this ISMS part. See, in ISMS part, very important thing is creating the culture among all the stakeholders towards successfully deploying the ASMS part. That's very, very important. We are also practicing now, though RBI governs a lot of regulations, everything and all. But again, I'm just repeating what Nipul mentioned, maybe in a different form. There are three stakeholders out there in this. Overall culture building is concerned as far as security is concerned. First is like the management. The management's push or their giving power to the people to adopt to the security culture is very, very important actually. I'll give one example. It may be rudimentary. Suppose wearing an ID card. I think this is very relevant for information security part. In fact, the CEO or COO or MD has to follow this. In fact, it's being followed now. Then only I think that the tendency of culture will come in like. It's not like it is meant for some like transaction level stuff. It's not like that. From top to bottom, the culture has to come in. They should set an example for people to follow. The top management and spending, like again, Nipul mentioned about training and continuous assessment, mock test, etc. and all. Then proper funding to be allocated. I think we engage a lot of consultants for that. For ISMS as well as for running the mock test training. It is not like we provide training internally and from external agencies also they come and give training to all senior managers and all complete staff about what is happening in the information security part, what are the vulnerabilities with use cases. Then only that culture will really get created. I give another rudimentary example. Say when you're traveling the road, you're wearing a helmet or you're obeying to the traffic rules, correct signal, etc. So the same culture it has to come in as far as information security is concerned. It is not like it is a routine job for me. I'd come and operate and go and all, but security become a part of their culture itself. The users, end users should feel like yeah, it is relevant to the company. So we can't trust everything on them. Okay. Like every day while you go out, you have to keep all the important documents in a cupboard and go use a switch off everything and all. No, that actually it is not like you can take a whip and monitor every day, correct? With proper training, etc. When they're moving, automatically it come to their mind like, yeah, these are the things I have to follow. So the second important thing is technical team. The role of technical team besides management. Even nowadays, management is gone beyond to the board level of security. It is not like no management. We talk with CEOs, CEOs and all. Now board is responsible. They are questioning me as a CIO or CISO, like what are the practices you are following? Every monthly they are asking for a report. So, and they used to tell very clearly, like, whether are you conducting, the training to all the staff to inculcate the culture of security. What are the measures being taken? Are you publishing in the newsletters? Or like, have you done mock drill? Like, you sent a spam message by yourself. How many staff they responded? Give a report. This is being asked in the board level. So
Correct.
the point I want to drive quickly is like, the role of end users in creating, the culture is very, very eminent. Training, continuous training is the key for this creating the culture. MRM, like again, one of my fellow panelists, they mentioned, there we are bringing the seniors also into the clue. Like, this is what is happening. This was being adhered. There's an IS audit happened. There is an assessment done by an external person. These are the findings. These are even we can pinpoint the name X, Y, Z. These are the areas where non-adherence happened. NC came in it now. So this is a continuous journey. And like again, Nipul mentioned, rewarding those who are following, like Hall of Fame. We used to publish, in the house magazines, those are doing exemplary things on this and all. Perfect. So in nutshell, like Lalit is like, culture building is very, very important for information security. Leave on the technology part. The awareness is very important.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ravindra. So my next question is to Vipin and Ashwin. One of the key aspects that we've not talked about is the third parties or the security vendors. Now, how do you Ashwin, if you could start, and then Vipin, you can add. How do you involve them in your cyber security journey? And Vipin, what are the expectations from third parties in maintaining a positive culture? So Ashwin, if you could first go, and then Vipin, then I'll cover Naseem and Ganesh. I have one question for both of you.
Sure. So, when you talk about the cybersecurity journey, as Ravindran and Nipul both have rightly pointed out, this is not a destination, it's a journey. And after having a 2 years plus, I mean, post implementation of ISO 27001 and facing two surveillance audit and recertification, one thing we realized that now we could able to generate the awareness among the employee that what is the security, why security is important, why simple, like giving you one small example, like password. Every now no one dare to send us the mail that reset my password, because we clearly told that you get 1 week before the alarm, why did you not change? But that it took almost 1 year for us to bring that culture. Similarly, there are so many things we have implemented. When when we started our journey, we have a list of the action item, but it was like a one vaccination per 2 months, something was our strategy. Not everything we have to go in one go, otherwise next meeting I would have a tough time to defend this all, because the moment you put the security controls, the business comes and say that our business will become half if you implement those things. So gradually we need to inject that. Now coming to your question, what we do is that we as I told you that whether it's when we select the application, we ensure that all the IT security controls. See, basically what we follow is that we have a set of the controls, security controls applicable to us. So what we do that when we select any SaaS or PaaS platform, we ensure that the applicable controls to those, and those controls, whether as a company, are they mitigate, are they having those controls or not into the product or application which they are going to which we are going to use as a subscription. If we are buying some application and which we are hosting in or co-locating into our premises, there also we ensure that all the necessary security parameters which require for whether it's a data leakage prevention or it's a cyber perspective. So we ensure that all those controls are it we ensure at the time of vendor selection, even if it is when it comes to cloud also, we whether it's a tier 1 tier 2 partner, we ensure that those SCCA reports and all those things, we check those traceability. So we have made a checklist. That checklist we follow. It's not only with product or application or POC is good, we don't select now. We embedded that IT security check also is a part of our partner selection process. Previously, we used to put a requirement, partner used to do the POC, and the next day we used to release order. Now there is additional checkpoint comes on IT security parts. So that's what we follow. There is a set of the checklist. There is or partner selection process. IT security part is embedded now. So that's what we do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashwin. So we are right on time. Is it okay if we extend for a couple of minutes?
Okay, yeah, 5-10 minutes.
Please go.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Please go.
I have a meeting by 5 o'clock, Lalit. Maybe I can extend up to 5:05.
Sure, sir. Sure, that is, we'll try and wrap up by then. So Vipin, what do you think are the expectations that CISO or a CIO have from a security vendor, and how can you involve them in your enhancing the culture within the organization? Vipin, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As I said that, the whole paradigm of security has evolved. And, from the point when we used to discuss point solutions today, and for a few years from now, my one ask from the security vendors have been that why don't you work on open standards, open protocols? It's very important. And because if from the perspective of a CIO, I can't go and jump from one point solution to the other point solution, understanding what is happening where. Now, if they work on open standards, and I even went a step ahead. I said, why don't you people form a consortium? Because many people in the security vendor told me that we have a certain specialty for this particular solution only. So I can't do an integration with others. So I say, okay, fair enough. Why don't you form a consortium and give pre-built solutions to the CIO? A pre-built solution means that knowing the landscape today, where part of the your loads is on the cloud, part of the load is in-house, part is on going here and there. Why can't you people together work out, give us open protocols that I pick and choose my security products and then do a seamless integration? And then the entire visibility of what's happening within the organization is coming on a dashboard seamlessly without the use of any third-party software. That will make security not only a part of the culture changing, because I have implemented security in so many organizations. One big thing what security does, it puts reverse pressure on the user community. It has the ability to change the way the people behave. At some place I implemented a DLP solution, and believe it or not, people at the level of president level, people used to say, oh my God, I have sent my CV wrongly on my mail. Please see to that. So you see, once you have that level of control, security is not about preventing hacking or only safeguarding your data or something. Security must become part of your DNA. And the best way to do the culture changes when you are able to analyze what is happening within the organization and throw back those problems back to business. That is where, it will have an impact. And for that, the vendor community, I think, has to play a leading role here.
Thank you. Thank you. You talked about some interesting things. And thank you for bringing me back on the technology question that I wanted to ask Naseem and Ganesh. So Naseem, you talked about zero trust, and Terence talked about security by design. How do you think organizations can effectively use both these concepts? Or how a zero trust will be effective in a security by design approach?
I would love to, I'm fan of cloud, to be very honest. Yes, I agree that, cloud may have certain vulnerabilities, certain risks, but in the same time, I would say that all that risks, whatever you are thinking of that risk is available in cloud. I'm telling you, all this risks is also available in your on-prem. Believe me, on-prem will not going to give you that much of visibility. In cloud, if I, I really don't, if I just need to one notification setup over there that any new setup is happening without this might be, I have, one certain level of, hardening. If anything, go beyond that, or if any server or any Kubernetes is spring up from a different location, just raise an alert. Believe me, can we get this kind of, technology over a on-frame? The answer is no, right? And today I would say, all of we have spoken a lot about the, password has to be changed, it has to be updated, you have to be a good, dude, I don't need a password. My question will be very upfront to you. Every time you want to log in with your OTP. I don't want to have this. And in terms of, building the culture, I feel, or I would say in my, 10-12 years experience, what I have seen, you have to create a sense that how security is going to benefit to you, not the employee. I've seen, in tech, in security training, what we're saying, hey, don't download this, don't do this. It's not going to help. Believe me, it's pretty boring things. If you tell me how I can save my UPI, how I can save my WhatsApp, how I can save my Facebook, that will bring that additional, I would say, adrenaline in my brain. That will create the interest. If I able to, bring that habit to that user, I'm sure my corporate data will be slowly, but it will be effectively secured.
Correct, Naseem. Thank you for the key concept is the belonging. How do I, so like we say,
Yes.
talk to employees that how do you belong to an organization culture? Similarly, how do you make them belong to a security is the key aspect and key challenge. Ganesh, initially you talked about data science and AI predictive. How are you on the security by design or the zero trust framework? What are your thoughts on that?
So whenever we talk about a zero trust framework, zero trust security model, uh, essentially we we don't take it up as something which is data centric. So that is the biggest what do you call disconnect I feel when I talk to different persons who are trying to implement zero trust security framework in their organization. So that is definitely data centric. It has to be backed with data. It has to be executed with data. Data has to be logged, and based on that data, will have to do further improvements. And even the data science ML or AI part, that is because that is based on data only. So once we have some data available from the executions or from the incidents that are happening, based on that, of course, we can do the prediction. So first thing is, whatever strategy we are defining or we are choosing for any organization, that has to be data centric, and that has to be a right strategy for that organization, considering their business portfolio and all. Another thing, another what do you call mess which I see whenever the this particular strategy is implemented, but the gains are expected almost instantaneously. So that is another thing which we need to consider, that whenever we are implementing this type of security model, this type of framework, we have to keep the patience. The results will definitely come up, but we need to keep patience. The scale in which we are implementing that will eventually bring in the expected results. Another thing, one more thing which we need to consider is, whenever we are implementing this, what exactly the user experience for that model is, how exactly different employees, different vendors, different other contractors working with that organization are dealing with this kind of security model. So what is the user experience they are experiencing out of it? So that has to be considered, because when we talk about culture, when we talk about the acceptance in the organization for any new security model or framework, then definitely the overall essence or the experience has to be kept in view.
Perfect.
Then apart from that, now it's not just my laptop, it's not just my server, my mobile device, iPad, different other machines which are connecting, IoT devices are there. So that is another thing which we need to consider whenever we are implementing this security model. The entire gambit of all the devices being used in the organization has to be covered as part of it. So when we say zero trust, so each and every device that is basically part of the organization has to be considered in that zero trust model.
Perfect. Thank you, Ganesh. So again, you brought in interesting concepts on having the results instantly and the scale. Now that brings me to my last question to you, Terence, and I would like to you to keep it short in the interest of time. How should organization position cybersecurity as an enabler to their digital goals and strategies to transformation and trust? And keeping in mind, you've seen this across organizations, across industry. So what are the key things that you would suggest for the panelists that we have today?
Okay. So see, security as I remember we've been mentioning this in the beginning, saying that security earlier at some point used to be looked up as a cost factor and less of a strategic investment. I think that conversation is up to us to change. If we go to businesses and present security as a business enabler, and we say, hey, with this investment, I can bring in so much ROI, I can secure the organization, which will enable you to go on and invest in new products, new markets. I think that narrative has to change. So we should not, I would say, underplay our value as security practitioners and IT practitioners. I think all of you do a fabulous job in running the company behind the scenes. So we should, lead with confidence and say, hey, we enable businesses to take on more risk, and especially the work that has gone in the last 12 to 18 months in the in the COVID scenario. I think it's tremendous. It's all the hard work that has actually helped businesses to sustain. So one is we should go with that mindset that we are an enabler, and and have a ROI conversation, because the board and the CFO and all, they always say, hey, if this is the cost, what's the return? And that's where Microsoft does work with CFOs and CISOs and CIOs to actually create that value conversation. So we have some value calculators and templates, and we're happy to share that with you. We do that for multiple technology, security, data, cloud migrations. So it helps you have that ROI calculation. So I would just say, think business and think of us as business enablers. We help organizations take on more risk and grow more in the digital era today.
Thank you, Terence, for summing it up. And thank you, all of you. I think Nipul and Mr. Ravindran dropped out, but thank you for an interesting conversation. We've covered some interesting topics, and I hope the discussion was useful for everyone. Back to you, Ivan. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, friends, that concludes the Economic Times Digital Roundtable on the theme Transforming Organizational Security, powered by Microsoft. A big thank you to all the members of this esteemed panel for taking time off from their busy schedules and sharing their valuable insights with us. I would also like to thank Lalit Kalra, partner Cybersecurity and Privacy, Ernst & Young India, for doing a fantastic job of moderating this panel. It was great to listen and learn from these bright minds and influential leaders and hear them share cutting-edge insights on transforming organizational security. I am sure we are leaving with some important takeaways. A big thank you to all of you for joining us for this session, powered by Microsoft. We look forward to seeing you for more such sessions in future. This is your host, Ivan Roderick, signing off. Have a nice day. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Lovely evening.
Thanks, Ivan. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
You, everyone.
Thanks, Lalit.
Thanks. Bye
Terence.
bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Lalit.
Thanks, team. Thank you so much.
Dharma.